The Philadelphia 76ers season is legitimately slipping away from them and slipping away from them quickly. Now, I'm not mad at them for losing tonight against the Thunder. Thunder are arguably the best team in the league. Incredible team that's been playing amazingly well. They've won, 18 of their last 19 games or whatever. They're playing amazing. And obviously, the Sixers didn't have anybody healthy tonight. There was no Tyrese Maxey, no Paul George, no Joel Embiid. A bunch of guys have been out for a while, in all honesty. And you get it, right? Like, it's understandable they lost this game tonight. What isn't understandable is that as of late, things have gotten worse again. Things have taken a turn for the worse again this season for the Sixers. They are now at a point where it's kind of do or die time. As we approach the second half of the season, they're 38 games into the year. Things pretty much are going to have to change very, very soon. Otherwise, this is legitimately just going to be a wasted season. Because here's the honest truth, y'all. I don't care that they're not that far out of the play-in and that they're probably going to make the play-in, and that's going to give them a good chance to make the playoffs. The playoffs, number one, look harder to make than they did a couple weeks ago in the Eastern Conference, certainly than they did a couple months ago. Not only that, Embiid is hurt again. He's got some left foot strain. He's missed 5 games in a row. He won't play tomorrow against the Knicks, I'm sure. Like, in general, it's just, things have been really disastrous as of late. I guess he could play against the Knicks tomorrow, and they could use him playing against the Knicks tomorrow. If they could get him, Maxey, and Paul George healthy tomorrow and get all those guys playing and win that game, that would be, I think, huge. But in general, do I expect that to happen? Honestly, no, not really. So if they're at a spot where it's just like, if it has to happen now, otherwise it's not going to happen this season. Because look, you look at the Eastern Conference, the top 6, all 6 of these teams look good. On night-to-night basis, some, if not all of them, look great. Cavs and Celtics are obviously way out of touch. Knicks, Magic, Bucks, Pacers, also in all likelihood, way out of touch for the Sixers, who are 5.5 games back of the Pacers. And that whole group just feels like they're too far ahead. The Pistons have been playing great as well as of late. Cade Cunningham is really elevating his game to a different level. The Heat are proving to be pretty resilient without Jimmy Butler, although I would not be shocked to see them fall. The Hawks have had really nice moments at points this season and look to be a competitive team in their own right. The Bulls are surprisingly decent, but do feel to me as though they are the team that most likely would fall out of this top 10. But you look at this group, the top 6 seeds are going to make the playoffs, which is going to give you a 14 plan of, if I had to predict, the Pistons, Hawks, Sixers, and one of the Heat or Bulls. If I had to guess, probably the Heat. And that means, in all likelihood, I would not be surprised at this point. I mean, the Sixers are 5 games back of the 8-seeded Pistons, 4.5 games back of the Hawks. They could very easily be the 9-seed and have to win 2 games in a row, one against the Heat or the Bulls, and one against, one against the Heat or the Bulls, and then one against the loser of the 7-8 game, which easily could be Pistons Hawks, and have to win both of those games to even make the playoffs. And if they do that, they could very easily get rewarded with the pleasure of either playing the Cavs or the Celtics in the first round. Good luck. For a team that has struggled this much so this season, all season, has no real cohesiveness, and has now hit a slump again after what was a pretty good stretch. I mean, obviously they started the season horrible, 3-14, but since that 3-14 stretch, they had a nice little stretch here up until about the end of December, where Embiid was playing, and Embiid did play up until this Brooklyn game, I guess, but they go from 3-14 to 13-18, a 10-4 stretch. Really nice, or 13-17, I should say, a 10-3 stretch, actually. Really nice basketball, looking like a very competitive, serious, maybe not contender, but playoff team at a very minimum. Since then, they're 2-6 in their last 8 games, some of which Embiid did play, but now he's been out for 5 games in a row. It's just, things are quickly going south again for this team, and they got a pretty tough schedule coming up. The Knicks, Pacers, Bucks, Cleveland, Denver, Lakers, Sacramento, Denver, Boston, Dallas. Well, Dallas probably won't have Luka, so that's a little bit of an easier game there. But Miami's competitive, if nothing else. Like, this is a tough stretch. Detroit, Milwaukee again, before you finally get to a stretch where you have a few more cupcake games. Toronto, Brooklyn against Chicago. Like, you get a stretch in here that might be a little bit easier, but until about middle of February, things are pretty brutal for this Sixers schedule over these next couple weeks. You're playing against a lot of the best teams in your conference and the better teams in the league. If they don't get their, you know what, 4-letter word together now, are they going to get it together? Like, is this season just kind of going to be a complete waste? Because look, Embiid ain't getting any younger. Neither is Paul George. Those guys are now what, 30 and 34, and both showing real signs of age. Paul George has regressed a lot this season. Kelly Oubre is not a bad player, but he's just not a good enough shooter to truly trust with consistency. Tyrese Maxey's been shooting better as of late, before the season, still only 33.5%. He's been their best player, yes, but still has had a little bit of a down year compared to what you would hope for. Efficiency wise, Embiid just isn't the same player. He's not shooting the ball great defensively. He's been a impact guy still, but he's not as mobile as he used to be. And honestly, offensively, I think has been worse for them this season. Jared McCain's out for the year. He was obviously one of the most important pieces to this team when they did have limited success early in the year, and he's done for. Yabusele has been really nice, but I don't think Yabusele is a guy you can count on to carry an offensive load on a night-to-night basis. Caleb Martin's a little bit injured now. He's getting a bit banged up. He's been solid, especially lately, but I don't know. Andre Drummond, your backup center, he hasn't been good, but even when now he's also kind of hurt. He's nursing injuries. Kyle Lowry's absolutely old. KJ Martin's in a boot still. His foot's broken. You look at this roster. What's the light at the end of the tunnel? I'm really not sure. The only way that this works is if Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid get healthy and stay healthy. And it pretty much has to happen now. Like, obviously Embiid, if you didn't know, Embiid was a full participant in practice this week. Maxey and Paul George are nursing nothing more than day-to-day injuries. Like, they're fine. They're not going to be missing games. They basically, I think, just missed the first half of this back-to-back tonight to set them up for the second half of the back-to-back tomorrow against the Knicks. And that's a game that you, I guess, hope to win. I guess maybe you hope to have Embiid back for that game. We'll see if he's back for that game or not. Either way, they're in a position now where it has to happen now, otherwise it's not going to happen this season. I mean, it's interesting to look at the numbers of this team so far this season too, because they start the season terribly. They're 18th in defensive rating, but they're 28th in offensive rating in their first 17 games, 3 of 14, and they have one of the 4 worst net ratings in basketball, right there with the tanking terrible teams. Like, it's really, really bad. Then they have this nice stretch for about a month afterwards where they play 13 games. They're 10-3. They have the 13th best defensive rating, nice improvement there, and massive offensive improvement where they go up to 9th in the league in offensive rating, and that gives them a net rating of 4, which puts them 8th in basketball. Significant progress. And then again, this last stretch of 8 games, they are now 7th worst in the league in defensive rating over these last 8 games. Offensive rating is again down to the dregs of the league as well, also 7th worst, which puts them at a negative 5.9 net rating. Again, 7th worst in basketball. And all 3 of those stats over their past 8 games, they are again playing like a trash team, a bottom of the barrel tanking type squad over the past couple weeks. This has to change now. Otherwise, it won't change this season, and I would not be at this point totally shocked to see the Sixers miss the playoffs. Do I think they're going to miss the playoffs? I would still lean towards no if I had to give an answer, but I would not be nearly as surprised as I would have been a couple weeks ago. And at this point, I mean, look, it's going to be tough no matter what. Even making the playoffs is going to be tough because you're going to have to be that one of Detroit, Atlanta, Miami, depending on how competitive they can be for that last playoff spot, and I just don't know if that's going to happen. And even if it does, you're just getting buzzsawed in the first round by one of these 2 elite teams in the Cavs and the Celtics. I just don't think that the Sixers team, even fully healthy, really has that much for those 2 squads. And even if they are fully healthy, like, maybe I realistically, the odds of them being fully healthy are probably this much at this point with Embiid and Paul George as 2 of your 3 main stars. It's probably not happening. So this season is quickly slipping away from them, and if things are going to change, they are very quickly running out of time. It has to happen now. It has to happen over these next couple weeks. Otherwise, they're going to build themselves too big of a hole to be able to overcome. That's the honest truth. I think they're really starting to teeter on the edge of full-on disaster, and I didn't think that was going to happen, but here we are. It is happening before our eyes. I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.